Inside Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Christians have venerated this tomb for 1,700 years. But less than a kilometer away lies another, an empty rock-cut tomb in a peaceful garden beside a hill shaped like a skull. Both are presented as the place where Jesus was buried, but their stories and the evidence behind them could hardly be more different.
There are two tombs of Jesus Christ here in Jerusalem. One is in a beautiful garden, and the other is inside a massive, ancient church. In this video, I'm going to show you both. And at the end, I want you to tell me, which one is the real one? Come with me. Just a few more steps, and we'll be inside a peaceful garden. We walk along paths shielded from the city, but it's not only the quiet that makes people stop here. It's how closely this place seems to match the gospel story. As we walk, a scene from the Gospel of John takes shape around us. The place of crucifixion, a garden, and a new tomb, all in one connected setting. The tomb lies further back. We'll enter it later. But first, our path leads us to the rock face considered a possible site of the crucifixion. To many, it looks remarkably fitting: an open-air garden, a rock-cut tomb, and Golgotha close by. Yet a place can feel convincing without proving what happened 2,000 years ago. In fact, this place was not connected with the crucifixion and the tomb of Jesus until the 19th century. By then, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre had been the traditional site for about 1,500 years. So why did travelers look elsewhere? The original landscape was almost impossible to recognize beneath its chapels, altars, icons, and richly decorated interiors. For many Protestant visitors, accustomed to simpler churches, this world of icons, incense, and elaborate ritual felt far removed from the gospel scene they pictured. Here, they found open skies and natural rock. And there was another problem in their eyes. The Holy Sepulchre stood inside the city walls. Since the crucifixion had taken place outside the city walls, many of them believed it could not be the true site. So they looked north of the old city for an alternative. But what drew their attention here first? Not the garden, not the tomb. It was the rock face ahead of us. The man who made this connection famous was British General Charles Gordon, himself a deeply religious Protestant. In 1883, he believed he could see the shape of a human skull in the rock, which seemed to match the name Golgotha, the place of a skull. It became known as Gordon's Calvary. And there it is, the rock that made this place famous. Look closely. Can you make out the shape of a skull? And now we make our way from the hill through the garden to the tomb. Before we get there, we need to briefly put the rock into context. The Gospels call the crucifixion site Golgotha, the place of a skull. But they do not say that the rock itself looked like a human skull. The name may have referred to the shape of the rock, but it may also have meant something else. What we do know is that this area lay outside Jerusalem in the time of Jesus. That would make it a plausible location for a public execution. And the skull shape Charles Gordon recognized in the rock led many people to see this as a possible site of Golgotha. After the crucifixion, Joseph of Arimathea took the body of Jesus down from the cross. The Sabbath was approaching, so there was little time for the burial. John tells us that there was a garden at the place of crucifixion, and in that garden, a new tomb. As we walk this short path, we can picture the situation. If the rock we have just seen was indeed Golgotha, this walk could roughly match the distance Joseph of Arimathea traveled with the body of Jesus. By the time Gordon identified the rock formation as a possible crucifixion site, the rock-cut tomb we are now walking toward had already been uncovered about 20 years earlier. His interpretation then brought together the two central elements of the Gospel account: the possible crucifixion site now known as Skull Hill, and the tomb only a few steps away. The setting, therefore, fits remarkably well with what the Gospels describe. But does the tomb itself fit as well? We are getting closer to it now, and the key lies in its age. When Gordon developed his theory, the tomb's later archaeological dating was still unknown. Here you can see the entrance to the tomb ahead of us. Then, in 1986, archaeologist Gabriel Barkay examined the tomb in detail and published his findings. It was the architecture of this tomb, together with comparisons to other tombs, that led Barkay to date it to Iron Age II, probably the 8th or 7th century BC. Other archaeologists have also argued for this dating. According to this dating, the tomb was already many centuries old when Jesus was crucified. And here, a difference from the Gospel account becomes clear. The Gospels do not describe just any available tomb. They describe a new tomb, a tomb in which no one had ever been laid. According to this dating, the garden tomb would therefore be difficult to reconcile with the new tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. And now, we're going inside. We enter a small room. To the right is the burial chamber. On the left and right are burial troughs, with a shorter one at the back. They were added when the tomb was remodeled and reused around the 5th century AD. Was this the place where Jesus was laid, and where, on the 3rd day, he rose from the dead? The rocky hill and the garden tomb create a setting that matches the Gospel account in remarkable ways. Yet the tomb itself dates centuries before the time of Jesus. To see how this compares with the place Christians have venerated for 1,700 years as the tomb of Jesus, we leave the garden behind and make our way toward the bustling heart of Jerusalem's old city. Come with me, because what we find there may change how you answer the question we began with. Which tomb is the real one? We are here in the Arab part of Jerusalem. As we walk toward the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, we have to imagine how different this area looked in the time of Jesus. Where streets, houses, and churches stand today, there was once a large abandoned limestone quarry outside the city at that time. This quarry supplied building material for ancient Jerusalem. Quarrying left behind a rugged landscape with deep cuts and individual rock outcrops that the stonemasons had left standing. One of these rocks is still preserved inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre today and is regarded as Golgotha. A rock like that, located just outside the city, would have been well suited as a highly visible Roman execution site. The original landscape is therefore broadly consistent with a place of public crucifixion. But was the site actually outside Jerusalem in the time of Jesus? Today, the location of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre seems to argue against it. It stands deep inside the Old City, even though Jesus was crucified outside Jerusalem. As we approach the Damascus Gate, we see the walls within which the Church of the Holy Sepulchre now stands. Yet, these fortifications did not exist in the time of Jesus. Archaeological studies show that the site of today's church lay outside the city at that time. That resolves the apparent contradiction. But did the site also contain the landscape John describes, a garden and a tomb near the place of crucifixion? As we walk through the Damascus Gate and continue through the bustling alleys, we mentally strip away the modern city. During excavations beneath the floor of the church in recent years, archaeologists found pollen and seeds from olive trees and grapevines, as well as remains of grain and figs. They also found low terrace walls that held fertile soil within the irregular quarry landscape. The abandoned quarry was therefore actually used for cultivation. This matches John's account that there was a garden at the place of crucifixion. And inside the church, just a few meters from the venerated tomb, Jewish rock-cut tombs from the Second Temple period, the era of Jesus, remain preserved to this day. The site was not only cultivated land, it was also used as a burial ground. A potential execution site, a garden, and rock-cut tombs all lay in close proximity. Topographically, this matches what John describes remarkably well. But why, out of all the tombs in that area, was one venerated as the tomb of Jesus?
The trail leads to the 4th century. By then, the original quarry landscape had long disappeared beneath a monumental pagan complex. Constantine the Great, the first Christian Roman emperor, had this complex demolished. Eusebius of Caesarea, a contemporary of the building work, describes how the debris was cleared and a rock-cut tomb was uncovered beneath it. According to Christian tradition, the identification was based on the memory of the local Christian community. To make the tomb the centerpiece of the new church complex, the builders removed the surrounding rock. What remained was a freestanding core of the tomb, enclosed and protected by a stone slab. Over it, they built a chapel, the so-called Edicule. Around it and the crucifixion site, a vast church complex arose, the first Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Yet the church and the Edicule were destroyed, damaged, and rebuilt multiple times over the following centuries. Was anything of this tomb core still preserved beneath all those later layers? That question could only be answered in 2016. During restoration work, the marble covering over the venerated tomb was lifted. Beneath it, scientists found the natural limestone of the tomb. Even more important was the mortar between this rock and one of the marble slabs. The mortar was dated to the 4th century, to the time of Constantine. This confirms that the tomb core beneath today's Edicule was not chosen in the Middle Ages or after a later destruction. It is the same rock core that was uncovered in the 4th century, architecturally enclosed and venerated as the tomb of Christ. The material trace of the venerated site therefore reaches back about 1,700 years, but only as far as the 4th century. What do we know about the nearly 300 years before that? No continuous written tradition survives from that early period. Jerusalem was destroyed in the year 70 and fundamentally rebuilt as a Roman city in the 2nd century. At that time, Emperor Hadrian had the irregular quarry landscape filled with massive amounts of earth and rubble.
Over it, a monumental pagan complex was built. According to Christian tradition, this was intended to cover up the memory of the venerated site. Yet the overbuilding had the exact opposite effect. The rocks and tombs were hidden beneath a Roman platform, while the monumental structure permanently marked the site. When Constantine had the complex removed 2 centuries later, the tomb beneath it re-emerged. The written link to the earliest Christians remains incomplete, but Hadrian's construction may explain how the place disappeared for centuries and could still be found again. And now we are arriving at that place. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is it, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. You've now heard what points to this place, but the most important thing is still missing. You haven't seen the tomb itself yet. When we walk through this old gate, the contrast with the quiet garden tomb could hardly be greater. We're leaving the open garden behind and entering a massive, ancient church. Inside, we first go up to Golgotha, and from there we continue to the tomb. Come with me. Right behind the entrance, pilgrims at the Stone of Anointing. This is where the preparation of Jesus' body for burial is remembered. The massive mosaic behind it depicts the final moments of the Passion, the taking down from the cross, the anointing, and the burial. But the place of crucifixion lies higher. We climb ancient stone steps, their edges worn smooth by generations of pilgrims. We reach Golgotha. And here, we see a preserved part of the landscape we talked about outside. On both sides, behind glass, we can see parts of the natural rock of Golgotha, a remnant of the old quarry. Let's move closer. The rock reaches further down into the Chapel of Adam, 1 floor below. Another part of the natural Golgotha rock is visible there behind glass. Here inside the church, too, the site of the crucifixion and the tomb are only a short distance apart. From the railing, we can look back down at the Stone of Anointing. And from here, we turn toward the tomb. We can already see part of the Edicule, the chapel built around the venerated tomb. This is the Edicule. And now we enter the burial chamber. First, we enter a small outer chamber. The burial chamber. Beneath the marble, the original rock tomb is preserved. We're back outside, in the courtyard of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And after this walk, I ask myself, is it even about which place can be proven 100%? Or is it about what these places awaken in us? What fascinates me, the garden tomb shows us the silence and the peace that we may connect with the tomb of Jesus. And this church carries the weight of almost 17 centuries of prayer, memory, and history. Which place speaks more to you? The quiet garden or the stones of history? Let me know in the comments below. And right here, on the screen, you'll find another video about a mystery hidden right next to the tomb.